started like any other flight. 62 people, a short trip across Brazil, clear skies ahead. But less than an hour later, the aircraft was spinning out of the sky, falling thousands of feet per minute, while terrified passengers screamed inside. This is the story of Voepass Flight 2283, the plane that dropped straight out of the clouds, with no warning and no survivors. August 9, 2024. It was a normal Friday morning in southern Brazil. Dozens of passengers were boarding Voepass Linhas Flight 2283, a routine domestic flight from the city of Cascavel to São Paulo. The aircraft was an ATR 72-500, a twin-engine turboprop that had flown safely for years. Nothing seemed unusual. The cockpit of the flight was crewed by two experienced pilots. Captain Danilo Santos Romano, age 35, had logged over 5,200 flight hours and joined Voepass in 2022, becoming an ATR 72 commander the following year. Colleagues described him as a skilled and dedicated aviator who was passionate about flying. His co-pilot, First Officer Humberto de Campos Alencar S. Silva, age 61, was a veteran pilot with more time on the ATR 72 type than the captain. Both were fully certified and in good standing with Brazil's Civil Aviation Authority. Together, they formed a competent and qualified crew. Yet despite their experience, the flight encountered conditions that no amount of training could overcome. The flight crew went through their regular checklists, weather reports looked manageable, and the plane took off around 11:50 a.m. local time with 62 people on board, 58 passengers, 2 cabin attendants, and 2 captains. For the first part of the journey, everything appeared normal. The aircraft climbed smoothly and leveled off around 17,000 feet. The flight was supposed to last just over an hour, but somewhere between the cities of Campinas and Vinhedo, something started to go wrong. Weather conditions that day included reports of icing, a dangerous situation where ice forms on an aircraft's wings and control surfaces. At around 13:20 p.m., while cruising, the ATR entered one of these regions of cold, moist air. The ice detectors on the aircraft began to activate. A few seconds later, the cockpit voice recorder picked up one of the pilots saying, "A lot of ice." The crew added more power, trying to maintain speed, but the aircraft began to slow. The de-icing systems were working, but maybe not fast enough. Then, suddenly, a warning sounded. It was followed by a loud vibration through the cabin, and within moments, a stall alarm started blaring. At 1:21 p.m., the aircraft abruptly rolled 52 degrees to the left, then swung 94 degrees to the right. The nose pitched down. The ATR entered a violent spin. In less than a minute, Flight 2283 lost control completely. Witnesses on the ground saw the plane spiraling from the sky, spinning almost flat, engines screaming. Cell phone videos showed the aircraft falling vertically with no visible attempt to recover. Inside the cockpit, data shows the crew fought to regain control, but the plane had already entered a flat spin, one of the most unrecoverable situations for any commercial aircraft. At 1:22 p.m., just 60 seconds after the first warning, Flight 2283 slammed into the ground in the town of Vinhedo, about 45 miles northwest of São Paulo. The impact created a fireball that could be seen for miles. All 62 people on board were killed instantly. No one on the ground was hurt. The crash was Brazil's deadliest aviation accident since 2007. Videos from nearby residents quickly spread online, showing the aircraft's horrifying final moments as it tumbled toward the earth. Brazil's Air Accident Investigation Agency, known as CENIPA, immediately began work at the crash site. They recovered both black boxes, the cockpit voice recorder and the flight data recorder, within hours. When investigators analyzed the data, the recordings confirmed what many feared. The aircraft had encountered severe icing at 17,000 feet. The co-pilot's last words, "a lot of ice," made it clear the crew was aware of the buildup, but events unfolded too quickly to react effectively. Investigators later confirmed that one of the plane's air conditioning systems, known as Pack 1, had been marked inoperative just days before the crash. It wasn't directly related to the de-icing system, but it raised new questions about maintenance quality and whether other systems were performing normally. The ATR 72's de-icing boots, located along the front of the wings, are designed to inflate and crack off ice buildup, but if they're turned on too late, or if ice accumulates faster than they can remove it, the results can be catastrophic. As the flight passed through freezing clouds, the aircraft began losing lift. Its airspeed dropped below safe limits. When the stall warning triggered, the pilots tried adding full power, but by then, the ice had changed the shape of the wings. Lift was gone. Radar data later showed the plane's descent rate reached over 12,000 feet per minute, almost straight down. The ATR then entered a flat spin, a deadly combination of roll, yaw, and pitch. Once a plane that size enters that type of spin, recovery is nearly impossible. The wreckage burned intensely for hours. Local residents rushed toward the site but found no survivors. Emergency responders could do little besides secure the area. By evening, Brazil's president had declared 3 days of national mourning. Families of the victims gathered near airports in São Paulo and Cascavel, waiting for information that would never bring comfort. Among those killed were doctors, engineers, students, and families, including a 3-year-old girl. Overall, 62 people dead in this plane crash. The investigation quickly focused on 3 key questions. First, why did the aircraft lose speed so suddenly? Second, were the ice protection systems working as they should have? And third, why didn't the pilots declare an emergency? Flight 2283 never made a mayday call. No distress signal was sent to air traffic control. Everything happened so quickly that the crew may never have had time. According to CENIPA's preliminary report, the first signs of trouble began less than 2 minutes before the crash. The icing alert went off, the plane slowed, the stall alarm sounded, and seconds later, the aircraft entered a spin. Experts later explained that the ATR-72 is particularly sensitive to icing conditions because of its wing design. Even small amounts of ice can drastically alter how air flows over the wing, raising the stall speed and reducing control effectiveness. By the time the stall warning went off, the aircraft was already past the point of recovery. Radar data showed that from 17,000 feet, the aircraft plunged to 4,000 feet in about 2 minutes, a near vertical drop. The final seconds show almost no forward movement. The plane was falling straight down. CENIPA investigators say the plane's left and right propellers increased pitch moments before the spin, likely a last-ditch attempt by the pilots to regain control. But at that altitude, and with ice already on the wings, there was nothing they could do. When the black box data was released weeks later, analysts described it as one of the fastest loss of control sequences ever recorded on a modern passenger aircraft. The accident raised serious questions about Voepass Flight's area's safety procedures and maintenance oversight. The company stated that the aircraft was fully airworthy at departure and that the crew was properly certified. But regulators weren't satisfied. In March 2025, Brazil's Civil Aviation Authority suspended Voepass's operating license after finding multiple irregularities in safety management and maintenance documentation. It was a stunning move, effectively grounding one of Brazil's oldest regional airlines. The tragedy of Flight 2283 is a reminder that even short, routine flights can turn deadly within seconds. The passengers on board likely had no idea what was happening. From the first stall warning to impact, less than 1 minute passed. There was no mayday, no radio call, just a sudden loss of control, a vertical dive, and silence. For Brazil, it was a national shock. For aviation investigators, it was a case study in how ice, something barely visible, can destroy a 50-foot-long aircraft in the span of a minute. In Vinhedo, a small memorial now stands near the crash site, surrounded by trees. Locals still remember the sound of the engines, the spinning plane, the explosion that followed. Flight 2283 left no survivors, only questions about systems, about reactions, and about how fast a routine flight can turn into a free fall. Don't forget to subscribe.